My friends, hello. I hope you're doing well. Actually, when I'm on ships, well, it's morning. Honestly, it's morning. I'm on my train. It's 10 o'clock. It's a quarter past 10 in the morning. I'm a little bit, and that's why I like being on ships. I'm a little bit spacey. I like this. I like this floating feeling. It's a kind of relaxation like that, which gives a feeling of irrestance. So that's why you laugh to yourself. You can't walk straight in the corridors because the ship is moving. You hear this noise. Do you hear this noise? Yeah, it's the ship that's creaking all over. It's serious, like I told you, it's creaking all over. Apparently, they're testing it, so the engines are now at full throttle, and then it creaks, and you hear those creaks everywhere. There, you go out and you stop. You hear the sea. It wants to open this. It wants to open this boat like an egg, and it wants to get us. It wants to get us. It's a battle, a kind of tug of war. So today, I wanted to talk to you about what did I want? What did I want to talk about? I wanted to talk about a sad subject. I started the video with the idea of talking to you a little bit about what do you call it? The fires in San Francisco, right? The fires in California, specifically Los Angeles, that's it. Actually, if you look, I'm reading the news a little bit on my phone, and there's something that stands out. It's the eco scam side of things. From the eco hype side of things, that is, if you look, we're going to associate this calamity, right? So we have a calamity that's hitting. So then, if it's a fire, but sometimes it's devastating storms, for example, or hurricanes or floods. So there's always a calamity that strikes, and we're going to associate it, if you will, with people's bad behavior. So we'll say there's a calamity that has fallen upon us, and all of this is because of selfishness. And actually, not only people's behavior, their way of life, and all that, but on top of it, we add a layer of moralizing, right? So there's a moral value judgment that's placed on top of it. So it's because people consume carbon, it's because they don't care about others, it's the selfishness of everyone, all that, they don't care. Well, and afterwards, we need a solution. So the solution involves payment, the solution involves sacrifice, and that's something that really strongly reminds us of paganism. Isn't it the case in many societies that are still influenced by a form of paganism? Even today, up until the moment I run out of breath. But if we look into the past, if we look at those primitive or naive peoples, all of that, they fed on this. If they were struck by any kind of calamity, it could be a disease, it could be anything that happened to them, a fire, a storm, they would always blame people's behavior. There are always witch doctors who come and say it's not possible, you have behaved badly, and the gods demand a sacrifice. And then, of course, they'll find some poor guy, they'll find some poor old woman who looks like a witch, all that, and we'll sacrifice her, literally and figuratively, to try to calm the wrath or the anger of the gods. So it's pretty much in this world that we're now happily sinking into. Let's thank the schools. Let's thank the collapse in scientific standards in schools. In fact, we still have the problem today that often comes from eco ideology. So I'll give you an example. In California, it's not the only place in the world where it's hot. It's not the only place in the world where they have forests. And yet it's the only place in the world where they have fires they can't control. The reality is that if paganism aside, now we're moving away from paganism, but the problem with modern paganism is that it prevents us from seeing the real problems. Because if we want to see the real problems, I think today we are well equipped with know-how, with science that isn't perfect, that isn't all-knowing either, but that does allow us today to solve this kind of problem. But as long as we let the pagans do as they please, we won't get out of this. For example, in California, they let forests go wild when actually you need to cut them. Generally, what we do is cut fire breaks in the forests, to allow for things, to prevent the fire from spreading, right? To reduce the fire's ability to spread without limits. And secondly, to allow firefighters to access and all that. So there are techniques, but with the environmentalists, they said, no, we don't cut the forest, so they let the forest go wild. Well, obviously, when you let the forest go wild, you let a field go wild, it's going to get out of control. There will be dead, dry trees. lush vegetation that grows when it's humid, which will die and dry out when it's too dry and all that. And obviously, that's going to create a tinderbox where all it takes is a match, a cigarette, and it's off for days and days. They also cut the fire department budget. So obviously, if you have fire departments that can't recruit and don't have enough trucks or equipment, all that, well, obviously the day you have a fire, that's it, you're screwed. So that also reminds me of what we saw in Spain. No, in Spain, Valencia, it was a region that experienced a lot of flooding. And then who found a solution to these floods, especially with the smart placement of dams, diversions, and all that? These dams, at the request of the crooks, they destroyed them. Well, of course, they destroyed the solution that was stopping them, that was avoiding, that was preventing, I don't even know if that's a French word, that was preventing the floods. And what happened? Well, they ended up with massive floods because the solution was removed. And then we have the pagans who came in afterwards. So ecological paganism is when they come and say, well, it's the population's fault and the gods are angry. That's why they bring these kinds of calamities down on us. And the gods demand a sacrifice. The gods demand taxes. In comparison, me, the great sorcerer, well, give me the taxes, I'll take them. The great sorcerer, as you understand, is the state. There are many around the great sorcerer, around the state. There are a lot of people, groups, and receivers, right? Subsidy seekers, seekers of public money who revolve around to siphon off that money, of course. So there you go, my friends. I haven't talked to you about it yet. I need to make a video just for that. My book on astrology, political ecology, which is really a destroyer of civilization. And you read some pretty awful things in it, it's unbelievable. But we can see where Western civilization is heading today. Because if you will, when you have a crook, when you have a particular crook, he won't be able to blow up or destroy a civilization. He won't be able to undermine its foundations. It's not possible. On the other hand, the problem is when you start having public policies that are always oriented toward that ideology of sacrifice, the ideology of destruction, the ideology of punitive taxation, the ideology of just, I destroy, I destroy, I destroy. Well, obviously, in the end, it's the whole civilization that ends up going down the drain. There you go, my friends. Thanks for watching this far. And then see you in the next one. See you very soon.